Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here with another short Hearthstone guide. In this guide, we're going to take a look at the Mage secrets. I'm going to teach you what the Mage secrets do, and how to minimize the damage that a Mage can deal to you with her secrets. Now, Mages have more secrets than Paladins or Hunters. Paladins have 4 secrets, Hunters have 5, Mages have 6. Mages also have the most expensive secrets. A Paladin secrets cost 1 mana, Hunter secrets cost 2 mana, Mage secrets have 3. So because Mages have the most secrets and because they're the most expensive secrets, and therefore, in a way, the strongest secrets, it is difficult sometimes to completely avoid getting screwed over, but you should at least minimize the damage, and knowing the Mage secrets is a huge opportunity for you as a Hearthstone player to get the most wins in this game. So let's talk about these secrets and see what they do in stages. First, there is one secret that mages have that triggers when you play a minion from your hand, and that is Mirror Entity. The minion gets copied. Now again, this does not activate on minions coming back to life, on Shaman Totems, or Paladin Recruits. This is only minions played from the hand. So the next type of secret is the type of secret that triggers when the mage is attacked. There's Ice Barrier, which gives the mage 8 armor when she is attacked. This is essentially 3 mana to gain 8 life. However, the mage needs to be attacked in order to get that life. If the mage is burned down with spells, Ice Barrier will, rather weirdly, never trigger. There's also Vaporize. When a minion attacks the mage, if Vaporize is active, that minion simply gets destroyed regardless of what it is, whether it has Divine Shield or whatever. So let's pause here. The number one thing to do when a mage has a secret in play is to play around Mirror Entity and then to try to play around Ice Barrier and Vaporize. Now, if you've watched my channel before, you know that one of my proverbs is always check for Mirror Entity before you check for Vaporize. So the first thing you always want to do when a mage is a secret, if possible, of course, is play your crappiest creature. Crappiest, of course, because you want the mage to copy something junky like a Novice Engineer. Battle cries don't trigger, rather than something really huge and scary. Now, you want to check for this first, because if the secret is Mirror Entity, then it's probable that you will want to use your other minions to kill the thing that the mage just copied. If you attack with your other minions first, and then play a minion, then the mage is going to get a copy of that minion, and you might not have the means with which to kill it efficiently. So always check for Mirror Entity before you check for Vaporize. First, you play your crappiest creature. Then, if the secret doesn't trigger it, you attack with your crappiest creature. Why? Because you obviously want Vaporize to kill the least valuable thing you have. Attack first with your 1/1, then attack with your 6/6. If it's Ice Barrier, that's always a good one to see. This is honestly a pretty bad card, because it doesn't matter what you attack with, it's just going to trigger and the mage gets 8 life. Big deal, she goes down a card, you win. So, to recap. First you play your crappiest creature, then you attack with your crappiest creature. That is the mode of operations for dealing with a mage secret. However, if you do both of these things, play a minion and attack, and no secret triggers, that means it's one of the other 3. So what are the other 3 secrets? Well, there's 2 secrets that deal with spells. One is Counterspell, quite simply. When the opponent casts any spell, that spell gets countered. And one is Spellbender. Now, Spellbender activates in a subset of scenarios when Counterspell would activate. In other words, every case where Spellbender would activate, Counterspell would activate as well. Now, Spellbender, instead of canceling the spell, redirects the spell onto a 1/3 minion that the mage summons on her side of the board. So Spellbender only interacts with targeted spells, and it only interacts with targeted spells that are cast on a minion. So if you have Spellbender in play and somebody chucks a fireball at your face, too bad, the Spellbender's not going to save you. I guess the Spellbender only likes to save other minions. She does not want to save the mage who summoned her. So when you're up against a mage and you know it's not Ice Barrier, Vaporize, or Mirror Entity because you've played a minion and because you've attacked, it's very likely, very, very likely to be one of the other 2 spells. So what you want to do ideally is play your cheapest, least important spell first, and then play the spell that you really, really care about, if, of course, you have that luxury. Keep in mind that if you play a non-targeted spell and the secret does not trigger, that means that you know it's not Counterspell, but it might still be Spellbender, because Spellbender would not activate on something like, say, a Consecration, which just deals 2 damage across the board, or any spell targeting the enemy hero directly. Now, if you cast a spell, and in fact, if you cast a targeted spell on a minion, then you know it's neither Counterspell nor Spellbender. What's the only thing left? Ice Block. So Ice Block triggers when the mage takes fatal damage. That damage is prevented, and the mage becomes immune until the end of her turn. So when you're playing around Ice Block, what you want to do is you want to get the mage as low in health as possible before you deal the finishing damage. So for example, let's say the mage has 10 health, and you have a Pyroblast. You don't want to cast the Pyroblast at the mage if she has a secret in play that might be Ice Block, because then that entire 10 damage will get cancelled. What you want to ideally do first is attack with your minions down as low as possible, say getting her down to 2 health, and then fling the Pyroblast. The damage will still get cancelled, and the mage will still survive that turn. However, she'll be at 2 health rather than at 10, because once the mage goes immune, you cannot further damage her. So Ice Block is used sometimes in Constructed. It was a good counter back in the day against other burn mages. I'm not sure how often it's being used nowadays. In the arena, you're not super likely to see it, but in Constructed, it may come up. So keep that in mind. Now let's recap the ways that you will play around a mage secret when the mage plays one and you want to minimize the damage. First, you play your crappiest creature to check for mirror entity. Then you attack with your crappiest creature at the mage directly to see if it's Vaporize or Ice Barrier. Note that you can attack a mage's minions with complete impunity, because nothing that you do when you attack a mage's minion will ever trigger a secret. Unless, of course, you cast a spell at the minion. If you realize, because you played a creature and because you attacked the mage directly, that the secret has not triggered, that means it's not Ice Barrier, it's not Mirror Entity, and it isn't Vaporize. So then you want to make sure that from that point on, you keep in mind there's a high chance of it being Counterspell or Spellbender. So you want to play your weakest or crappiest or least important spell first to flush those out before you play anything really important, like a Flame Strike or something. And if you've played a spell, you know it's not and the secret hasn't triggered, you know it's not Counterspell. If you've targeted a minion with a spell, whether yours or your opponent's, you know it's neither Spellbender nor Counterspell, and that leaves Ice Block. To play around that, deal as much damage to the mage as possible, getting her as low as health as possible before dealing the finishing damage. That way when Ice Block triggers and prevents her death and makes her immune, she is at the lowest possible amount of health, making it easier for you to kill her in subsequent turns. If that is, of course, that you don't die in the turn after the Ice Block. I hope you found that instructive and useful. If you did, do please like and or subscribe. In the next video, we'll do an in-depth example, just as we did for Hunter and for Rogue, to see how in-depth to play around a mage's secrets using an example from a live game. I hope you're going to enjoy that, because I sure am going to enjoy making it. I'll see you soon.